In this universe,
in this galaxy, in this world, beneath the influencer clouds,
over the viral video fields,
off the information superhighway,
there are voices in the digital wilderness, whispering
more opinions.
If you listen,
you will hear.
Frank is here, and Casey's uber jealous.
right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right off the jump.
Right. What do we expect? Anything less, though? Right? Have you guys already watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? I have twice already.
Yeah, I watched it the other day, but not that I don't have that movie memorized from start to finish anyway.
Of course, right? Yeah. Alex? He's like,
I give it a few years. I don't watch movies like that every year because for some reason it's still burned into my brain. So, old good movies like that and Darkman and Back to the Future and Die Hard with a Vengeance. They're just there. I don't have to watch them.
That being said, I've already watched Deadpool and Wolverine 3 times since it's come on Disney Plus. I think they did such an awesome job on it.
I watched it 3 times in the theater opening weekend.
Holy shit. Okay, Frank wins. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, for those joining us, this is Frank from The Harsh Truth. He has joined us tonight. He is on Thursdays and Tuesdays discussing movies, doing reviews. I was with Frank on Thursday to discuss Die Hard 2, which was a lot of fun. Thank you again, Frank.
Always, you guys are always welcome. As I was telling Nick before, there's a standing invitation for you guys. If you guys ever want to be on, just say, "Hey, I'm coming on Thursday." I'm like, "All right, I'll sit in extra camera position." We're cool.
Yeah, and I got to pay attention too, because like the one that I missed, I was like, "Fuck!" And it was too late because I had already made plans. Was Children of the Corn. It's like, oh, that's like second to Jaws is my favorite movie. So yeah, I was like, I don't think you were there for that. I think that was Cora. Was that one you missed?
No, I was there for that.
Okay.
I was there for that one.
Okay, I thought. Okay, okay.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
So, all right. So, Alex, how was your week?
Last week it was a slog to get through because I knew I would be off this week. And when something great is coming up, the time just seems to slow down just to torture you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sure does. Yeah. So. And Frank, you're the 4 days since I've seen you. How was your weekend?
Not bad, kind of average, quiet. It was just me and Jennifer around the house this weekend. Stepdaughter's gone off with her dad for the week, and then I work today, and then I work Friday for reasons I can't fully understand, with 3 days off right in the middle. But whatever. Oof. I mean, the days off are all paid, so whatever.
There you go.
I'm working 2 out of 7 days. I can't really complain.
Yeah, I was supposed to be off this week. I was supposed to be in Prince George at this time, but the wife got a new job, so we couldn't go this year. So I canceled my holidays to let someone else be able to go. So I think it had worked out. If I had taken my time off, I would have had 17 days off in a row. I can't lie. I'm kind of regretting canceling because that sounded. Now I'm sitting here thinking, going, shit. But I'm off next week, so yeah. So do we just want to get into why there's more reasons Frank is here, but the main reason that Frank is here, so.
Oh, look at that.
So I am, who is that? Who's that male swimmer? Leah Thompson. I'm Leah Thompson with the wig.
The next 5 minutes to the start of the show, find out who it is, and then come back to us.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Okay, do you want to bring the picture up there, my charming co-host, or do you want me to bring it up?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So, this was a picture I randomly sent to Alex. Is like I flood this poor guy's messenger with crap that he has to sift through, and this was one of them. And what I am talking about, as my beautiful bald co-host is going to bring it up, is the trilogy meter. And I am an average movie guy, but the men that are now sandwiching me in a Nick Oreo are movie savants. So I thought, Alex thought, and Frank said, "Hey, can I have a piece of this action?" That we would discuss this trilogy meter. And in the chat, if anybody has ideas about other trilogies that are not on this list, please bring them up and we can discuss. So do we just want to start at the top? Where do you want to start there, Alex?
Let's let Frank decide.
All right, Frankie, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's start at the top. Let's go Star Wars. Let's just kind of go. Let's go left to right as we read usually. Well, most of us anyway. Yeah, let's just start at the top. Let's go.
Okay, well, you go ahead, Frank. What you give your thoughts on their trilogy meter? Now, if we wanted to go into the other ones later, we will. But we are talking about the original, like trilogy, the original, saga, whatever the hell you want to call it. So. New Hope, Empire, Jedi. That's what we're discussing first.
Yeah, I think all those three of those movies are awesome. I mean, I look at that, it's pretty close. I mean, having grown up on Star Wars kind of in that era, I just kind of put all of them at 100%. They were three very good movies on their own. When you see them all kind of in the broad picture of the entire those three movie sets, not the entire Star Wars saga, all 200 movies and 27 TV shows we've got now. But if you just look at those three films on their own, I think they're all fantastic. I'm okay with the way they've got Star Wars done up there.
Okay. Hello, Jolene. Nice of you to join us tonight. Alex, what do you think about the Star Wars ratings?
Because I saw these when I was young, again, these are movies that are burned into my brain. I would go with Frank. I'd put them all at full charge, 100%, the top. There's enough different stuff going on in each of these three movies that help to move the story along that I can't subtract points from one for this or that reason. Sure, some of the effects are dated, but because of how great the overall story is, it's top of the pops for me. But out of the three, The Empire Strikes Back is the best.
No, my question then would be, so I completely agree with the boys here. I think that they should all be 100%. But I'm going to try to play the devil's advocate. I don't think that's what to play here, to pick a brain, but do you think that Jedi lacks a little bit? Because maybe a lot of people thought the Ewoks were a little much. Kind of took away. Because I've often heard, it was in a movie, and again, I'm not the movie guy, but like, the Ewoks are going to fight these guys with guns and beat them? Like, I think that might have been someone's bitch about Return to the Jedi. Like, what do you guys think? Like, what would, if in people's minds, what would drop it down that little bit compared to even New Hope? I think we all three agree Empire's the best one. Right? Everybody agree, right?
Oh, yeah.
So why is Return of the Jedi just that little bit lower than A New Hope? Frank?
By the time Jedi comes out, a lot of people kind of forget that the first Star Wars, A New Hope, was kind of an independent film. Yeah, Fox put the money behind it and released it and distributed it and all that, but there wasn't much to be made of this thing when it came out. I mean, George Lucas was not George Lucas yet. That's why he very famously held on to the toy rights and everything. Not a lot of people thought that this was going to become a staple of culture for 50 years. Mm-hmm. So he didn't have that leeway to just do characters. We're like, okay, now you're big. Now we have to have toys. We need something cute and fuzzy. How about these things called Ewoks? It's like, well, and I'm sure he kind of was like, I'll put them in there. I mean, I'll find a way to work him into the story, which he did, but they weren't necessary. And I think that's one of the examples of the studios kind of interfering a little too much. I don't like it when people bitch about studio interference because let's face it, they're putting up $100-something million for a movie. They can interfere all they want. It's their movie. But at the same time, they were trying to sell a few toys, make it a bit more friendly and cute. They should have just let George Lucas do whatever he may have wanted to do, or made them a little more, maybe not so lovey-dovey and cutesy and fun and adorable. Maybe made them a little more murderous, a little more monstrous. I think that probably would have been a little bit cooler. But I mean, yeah, that's why people didn't really like them. I've never minded them, to be honest. But like I said, I was a kid when the movie came out. I mean, that came out, what, 81, 82? Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As I recall, I forget. I mean, so I was a kid. Maybe I was just watching it through a child's eyes. And as I grew up, I just always had this affinity towards all the Star Wars movies. So whatever. I mean, it all worked out in the end. Good guys win. Bad guys get destroyed. That's kind of what the movie needed. So,
Alex, thoughts?
I can understand why in this trilogy meter that 3 would be lower than 1 or 2. Ewoks aside, even. The story was solid. From what I remember, I don't think I've seen this movie in 15 years, at least not all the way through. There was a movie called, I think it was Ewoks Battle for Endor. I think it was a TV movie back in the day. And it was okay. It didn't really detract much in terms of the overall Star Wars story. So whoever put the list together, that's who I would ask, why is 3 just that little bit lower than 1?
And take it, and again, I don't know what eyes are looking at this. We don't know, like, the time period, but like you think about how awesome that space battle was. Like when they're fighting over Endor, like, and how, like, when, or the moon, right? When they're getting ready to blow it up, and like how awesome that fight was back when we saw it. And I like what you said, Frank, about how I've never thought of it that way. And I'm glad you did, because now I can kind of stick up more for Saga. I kind of did in this way when people were shitting on like Phantom Menace and the Attack of the Clones. So all not super good movies. I'm never going to defend that they were great movies. But like you said, Frank, he had an independent film that he struck gold, happened, and now they're like, we want 3 more movies, and I was like, holy shit, I gotta make a whole universe of this crap now. Hit him with it.
Yeah, I'm going to. And just so Casey gets his due.
You seen my wiener.
Sorry, Frank.
So,
Go ahead. He was saying something.
No, that was my thing. I think that they needed some toys, and guess what? They made a shitload of money. And if George Lucas decided he wanted him in there because he wanted some bank, fuck, good on him. So, all right.
You mentioned the Battle of Endor real quick, though. Those are all available on Disney Plus. That was actually a sequel to something called God damn, I want to draw a blank now.
Oh, I think I know the other one.
Something adventure, something or other.
The Ewok Adventures.
The Ewok Adventure, that's it.
Yeah.
And the reason why that was completely hated was because it went away from like the Jedi mythology, and it became some like sword and sorcerer thing. It like a medieval thing on Endor. I don't know what the hell that mess was. I remember liking it when I was a kid, and I watched it a few months ago just because I stumbled across on Disney Plus as I was going through the Star Wars universe stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this, and I was just like, good God, that's why everybody hated it.
Yeah, that's why now you understand.
It had Ewoks, but it was more like Willow. Yeah, it was something out of that universe than it was the Star Wars universe. So I mean, an interesting watch if you don't know anything about Star Wars. If you know something about Star Wars, you're like, what the hell is this crap?
What the hell is this crap? Yeah. Yes, what is this? Right? Yeah, why are we doing this? So, okay, well, let's roll along now to everybody's favorite, whatever scientist, paleontologist, paleontologist, dinosaurs. Indiana Jones, proctologist. All right, I'm gonna start. See, I'm doing the old Frank thing. I'm gonna say a name, that way they can talk and we're not walking over each other, because that's the worst. We'll walk over each other later. So, Alex, Indiana Jones.
Ooh. I can't understand why 2 is on par with 3, because definitely not. The first one is a classic. The second one, while decent, holds no candles whatsoever to the third. The third is my absolute favorite in the trilogy, hands down, and entertained from minute 1 to the credits, even including the credits, because John Williams' score is amazing and legendary and epic and all those other words that people nonchalantly throw around nowadays when they shouldn't be. I love Indiana. I saw the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, on beta.
I love it when you say beta. I love when you say beta.
So I'm not the only old person on the stream. That's nice to know.
I think my parents still have that beta machine in the basement somewhere. And I had a whole lot of recorded movies on those beta tapes and hopefully still do. I don't think that machine will play. But I would watch Raiders of the Lost Ark over and freaking over again because I loved it that much. But when I saw the third, my mind was blown. So 3 should be the 100% meter, 2 should be down a little bit, and 1 should probably have just a little bit of the white space at the top, but no more than that.
Frankie?
Yeah, I agree. Like 2 has always worked really well for me because most people who know movies know that 2 is actually a prequel. 2 is actually first in line of the movie timeline. Then it goes 1, then 3. So 2 has always worked. It's always been a fine Indiana Jones movie on its own without really being overconnected to the rest of the universe. But I'm with Alex. I don't know why 3 is not higher ranking above all the other 2 movies. It's just the movies. Look, it's you already have this great character, this great actor, and let's just sprinkle in there for a minute a little bit of Sean Connery. That's the ultimate cherry on top of the sundae. Yeah, 3 is by far the best Indiana Jones movie. It was a perfect ending to the trilogy. The other movies, whatever.
That's why we're not talking about those.
I can watch these original 3 movies for no reason. If I'm flipping through the channels they're on, I'll stop and watch. They're guaranteed to entertain me while they're on.
So I'm in agreement. It has been a minute. I'm kind of on the Star Wars thing with Alex on this one. I've seen these. It's probably been at least a decade, if not more. The only thing that did kind of ruin it, and I don't know if you guys, maybe Frank is or not, but are you guys Big Bang Theory fans? I don't think Alex is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it all.
Okay. But that episode where Amy pointed out the big flaw of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, well, you can say that a lot of different.
I know, but I think it was just the way that like Sheldon played it, because in the show, Alex, so Sheldon Cooper, the head nerd, if you will, shows his girlfriend Amy had never seen the Indiana Jones, so she sees it, and he's like, after it's done, he's like, how was it? And she's like, well, it was cute, it was good. He's like, cute. No, and then of course she's like, well, yeah, it's cute, but except for the big glaring story hole in it. And he's like, what? Please dazzle me. And she's like, well, Indiana Jones has nothing to do with the outcome of the movie. He just prolonged the movie. Like, think about it. Everything would have happened the same if Indiana Jones wasn't involved. They still would have found the covenant or whatever, and they would have went and opened it, and they would have died. So really, he had no effect on what happened. And Sheldon's jaw's like, and he's like, let me get that for you. Closes his mouth. But other than that, I completely agree, Frank. If you're going to sit there and nitpick like that, you could do that for almost any movie all the time, right? But
I would argue that by saying that sometimes the movie is about the journey, not the destination.
I completely agree with you. I do. And so, yeah, so really, maybe she was just pointing it out to him. So let's move along to The Matrix. I'm going to start this one by saying I believe that the second should be a smidgen higher, and the third one should be actually down below Jurassic Park's third one. Because that third one was the drizzling shits.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything else? The first one, I think the first one should be full. I thought the first one was a masterpiece. Second one could be a touch higher, but yeah, the third one, whew. Alex, Frank agreed. Alex, you have anything you want to add to that?
The second one should not be as low as it is on this infographic. Reason being, you've got the 99 Smiths fight, and you've got the conversation with the architect, and you've got the highway chase scene and fight. Mm-hmm. Those, for me, that brings up 2 to at least half, if not 3/4 of that meter. The third Yeah, it gets a lot of hate. I don't think I'd have it quite that low. Not a lot in terms of memorable fights. Um, it was decent though. So the first probably at the top, the second higher, the third a little bit higher.
Okay. Now, honestly, Frankie, do you want to add anything to that before we carry on?
Well, I agree with Alex. I think the second one doesn't quite get the love it deserves. I mean, is it as good as the first one? No,
No.
but it was still pretty good. I liked it better than a lot of people. Third one, it's like, I mean, honestly, the third act wasn't bad, but it gets to the point where it's like that final fight between Neo and Agent Smith. It's like an hour long.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get the ending. I liked it the way Neo basically giving up and saying, "Okay, you can win, Smith. This is the way it's got to be for you to be defeated. Is for me to let you win." It was a very poetic ending, but it's like an hour of fighting for all that. Considering that we had seen this kind of like really stylistic fighting through 2 movies already, not to mention movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and stuff like that. Really artistic, almost dance style fighting. It was like, I mean, a solid third act. Fight drug out a lot. The Matrix is interesting because it reminds you why Marvel has been successful. It's really, really hard to get into the third movie of a franchise and to not lose your way telling the story, to not keep things fresh, to not introduce new aspects that keep the people who love it wanting to come back for more. Marvel's managed to do that by and large for the most part for however many years now, freaking 14 years and 812 movies to varying degrees of success.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis, as good as they are as storytellers, just really couldn't get it done, couldn't finish it with this. The fourth Matrix movie that came out, the Resurrections, whatever the hell it is, or Reconstitution, whatever the hell they called that movie, I thought it was a great start. I liked the opening scene. I thought it had a great look to it. And I was like, okay, maybe they're back. And then the movie just like crashed and burned from then on out. It was really disappointing. They after all these years, they couldn't think of anything new to add to it other than to make Trinity a chosen one. Now there's multiple chosen ones, which means being a chosen one doesn't matter because there's going to be more of you. So it's like, whatever. It's the storytelling really fell off at the end. So I'm with you. The second one, I think, is better than a lot of people give it credit for. Third one, like you said, just kind of drizzling shits.
Drizzling shits. I love that term. So
Naming, making there more than one chosen one is like naming your band the Lone Rangers.
Yeah.
Great callback. If you don't know it, look it up. Watch the movie. That's all I got to say about that. So, as a wrestling fan, no, don't acknowledge. Okay. Don't acknowledge, because God, look at he's called working, and he's worked you into a shoot, and you're a wrestling guy. Look at that. He's worked you so hard, giggity. Are you like yelling at your screen right now? Like, acknowledge me! Lord.
He
All right,
is,
I'm gonna full disclosure.
What is that girlfriend meme with the girl with the big eyes? He's literally that right now.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You're like that chick from Wayne's World. Fuck. All right. I'm gonna be full disclosure. The next one, I don't remember any of these movies. The next 3. All I remember is Khan, and then Spock getting shot across space. But that's so. This is on you guys.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I love Star Trek. I've always been more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan. Now Star Wars is of course the better franchise. I'm not gonna. It's been more successful monetarily. It's a bigger box office, better grades across the board. Star Wars is the better franchise. I've always liked Star Trek a lot more. I grew up. I grew up a Star Trek fan with my dad. I actually went to a Star Trek convention many years ago. A smaller traveling one, not like one of the big ones you'd see in Vegas. But I've always liked Star Trek more because there's a certain hopefulness to it. I like the idea that one of these days, as a planet, we're gonna get our shit together. We're gonna go explore the stars and meet new beings and do cool shit like studying, exploding stars. We're gonna find a Dyson sphere. I love the idea of everything that it could. Of what the world could be, what the universe could be if we pull our heads out of our asses as humanity and go do these crazy things, go build a starship. That's it.
That being said, though, I was a Next Generation fan.
Oh.
I was never big into the movies. I'm gonna be fully honest. But my dad is a huge Trekkie. So we watched The Next Generation all the time. I did not mind The Next Generation.
Yeah, Next Generation was great. I still watch episodes of that from here and there. The Reverend says that Star Trek 1 was horrendously boring. Yes, it was. That was not a good start to the franchise. The reason why is because they took a script from what was going to be an episode of the original series and just stretched it out to 2 hours. So it was like, that there's been a couple of movies that have tried that, movies that were based on TV shows, and it didn't work out very well. Some of those storylines are best told in that 3-act half-hour thing where you do like 8 minutes here, 8 minutes there, 8 minutes there. It's better to do that. After that, though, it really pops off. I mean, everything all the way up till Generations, I think is pretty good. I mean, with Star Trek, the thing is, like they always say, the even-numbered movies are the better ones. Like Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, great. Star Trek 3, not so great. Star Trek 4, Star Trek 4, Voyage Home, fantastic. I think all of the OG Star Trek movies were fantastic, except for the first one, which is really, really hard to follow. But and then the last couple, the J.J. Abrams, the first was actually pretty good.
I didn't mind that one. Yeah.
I thought that was solid.
Yeah.
After that, the second one where they bring Benedict Cumberbatch in as Khan, I thought that was pretty good. Not quite in the same level. Third one, meh. I mean, it's like we're just making the movie because we think it's going to make money. They didn't put enough energy behind the story.
Okay.
It's like you literally had. It's not unlike Star Wars and some of the problems they're facing. You have a whole literal universe of stories to pull from. Why are you confining yourself into this space when you've got this space to work with?
Yeah.
Do some other things. So it's like not every story has to be about the Enterprise and its crew. You tell other stories. And I think they've done that a little bit with things like the stuff they've been doing at Paramount, like Below Decks is kind of funny. I know it's more of a humorous animated take on shit, which is fine. Picard's fantastic. It managed to tell different stories. Yes, it's kind of about Picard. And yes, the final season of Picard was basically an extra season of Next Generation. But I mean, the stuff they did in the first couple of seasons with just Picard, his weird adventures away from the Enterprise were pretty good. But yeah, like I said, Star Trek, I've always loved it. It's always been my personal favorite, although not quite as successful as Star Wars.
Okay, Alex, and then I'm going to go to Star Wars for a question for you guys. Alex, thoughts on Star Wars? Or
Well,
Star Trek, sorry?
When I look at this Star Trek trilogy, I am thinking of the J.J. Abrams trilogy as opposed to the first three from 1979 and then the 80s. Because like you, Nick, the only thing I remember from the early Star Trek movies is Khan from part 2. And I remember the whales from part 4, and I saw part 6, The Undiscovered Country, in the theater. And that was kind of a mind-blowing experience, especially the final act. The J.J. Abrams trilogy, the first one was good. I'd probably go a little bit higher on the rating for this one. The second one, because I love Benedict Cumberbatch, I'd probably go 2 a little bit higher. And the third, yeah, like Frank said, it was a movie. There wasn't enough put into it. Well, let's make it a trilogy, and then we can sell more box sets. So that's where I stand with that.
Okay.
It is such a hard franchise to kind of measure, though, because they've made about 87 movies at this point,
and how many different series too, right?
Different. I mean, and it's like, do you split the movie runs up into original series and Next Generation cast? So do you count Generations as like the first one of the Next Gen trilogy? Then J.J. Abrams stuff. I mean, whatever. There's a lot to it. I mean, I could go on about Trek for days. The way that Tex could talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre for a month without stopping to catch his breath, I could probably do it with Star Trek.
This is a question I'm going to have, and we don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Do you think instead of going forward like Disney did with Star Wars, just trying to make money, they should have focused more on telling the backstory? Like, because I found like when they went back to the old characters, like Kenobi, I really enjoyed that series. And maybe they gone back a little more with I don't know, with the characters that we were more familiar with. Because I found like I have no interest in watching the one with like what's her Oscar or Asker, whatever her name is. Like Anakin's Padawan. There's things I don't care about. Whereas I think if they would have told, like if they release a series or a movie about like what Darth Vader does, you know, between like the Return of the, or what was it, Revenge of the Sith and the New Hope, like an intricate storytelling, I would be all about that. if it was told right. Whereas I don't give a shit about any of the new stuff. I don't.
Well, part of the problem with Star Wars is they diluted the brand.
Yes.
Like very, very badly.
Yes.
So it's like we went from, okay, so Return of the Jedi comes out, and we just kind of assume that's the last Star Wars that's ever going to come out.
Mhm.
And then, 15 years later or something like that, we get the prequel trilogy, which gets everybody excited because we're like, this is a gift that we've all been given. More Star Wars, more Skywalker saga. And like them or not, I mean, they were there, we had them. And so when that wraps up, you think that's all the Star Wars we're going to get. And then Lucasfilm sells to Disney, and Disney's like, we're making more. And it's like, okay, but you can't just make them to make them. You're touching into something that's pop culturally, not just pop culturally relevant, but it's driven culture for, at that point, 30 some years. Yeah. It's like you can't just make a movie and then call it Star Wars. There's a certain level of expectation that the real fans are going to have. And I really like Force Awakens. I thought that was a fantastic film. I know a lot of people kind of shit on it as just being like a different version of A New Hope. It's like, that's great. You know why? Because A New Hope was a fantastic ass movie that started this phenomenon. I'm okay with it being a shot-for-shot remake in spots. I don't really care that they made the hero the girl. I was like, she's a great character. I love the Rey character. She's fantastic. So, and then they come out with, now we're coming out with Rogue One. Okay, you're moving the focus a little bit away from Skywalker, and you're using this universe with stories. Fine. And then the Han Solo movie, and I'm like, I don't really want a young Han Solo movie because, as far as I'm concerned, at that point, his story's been told.
Yeah.
So it's like, why? I don't really. Yeah. And then all the problems that it had. I mean, it ended up being a better movie than I thought it would be, but it still wasn't necessarily needed for the franchise itself. I don't see the franchise differently because of that. And then Mandalorian, which is really good. I like it as a whole. And then 12 other things, and I'm like, we went from every once in a while getting hope that we were getting a new thing to now all of a sudden we're just being inundated with Star Wars. You dilute your brand. You make it less. You make it less needed, less loved because there's just a bunch of it out there now. So it's like if we were getting a trilogy every 10 years, you build up anticipation. There's no anticipation now. And Marvel's doing the same thing. It went from a couple movies a year and then maybe a TV series or two to now we're getting 27 movies and 47 TV series in the span of 12 months. And it's like, you're diluting the brand. You're not making it special. It's special because there's not a lot of it to go around. When you just pour a dump truck of it on us, it's like, we don't really want it at that point. You know what I mean?
I will say about Rogue One, I enjoyed it because it showed like how to get the plans. And I like, they didn't spend a lot of time introducing characters that you were going to give a shit about. You were bummed out that they died, but there wasn't a lot of character development. And come on, that end when Darth Vader shows up, the videos that have come out lately, I saw, there was two, but the one that sticks in my head was For Whom the Bell Tolls. Like when they're trying to get the plans away and it goes dark and those like that, just the bells start going from For Who the Bell Tolls, and just as a da 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 starts, a lightsaber turns on. It's like, this is really good. So so Alex, thoughts?
Rogue One was great. I loved seeing it in the theater. I love Donnie Yen, and it was great to see Forrest Whitaker in a Star Wars movie. And yes, that ending was awesome because as a young man, I always wondered what that would be like for a small band of rebels to try and get those plans and what that story would look like. And we got it, and I loved it.
And I thought they did a good job. So let's move along. Superman. Frankie, you guys, if you go look on the Harsh Truths channel, they did a Superman review and got a shit ton of views. So if you haven't already watched, go watch to give him more views. So, Frank, what do you think about the ratings for these movies?
I think one should be a little where two is. Two should be 100%. That's the best Superman movie ever made. Three, I would put it up about halfway. I mean, look, it's not the same, but adding Richard Pryor in never really goes wrong, especially because he was kind of in his coke and alcohol fueled prime at the time.
He sure was.
Well, like I was saying earlier, you get to the third movie in a series, you've got to add a little something to it. You've got to sweeten the deal a little bit. And by adding Richard Pryor in as more comic relief, you do add that second dimension. Richard Pryor, I mean, for those of you who don't watch comedy, Richard Pryor is considered maybe the best comedian ever. by
One
a
of
lot of
them.
people.
Yep, by a lot of
And
people. Yep.
and dude, his kind of like manic, twitchy shit that he was known for, he brought some fun to it.
Yep.
I thought it was a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. But yeah, I'm with the way they've rated it. I would just rate 3 a little bit higher, and 2 would just be 100%. I mean, dude, come on, Zod. That's the best version of Zod we've ever gotten. Not by a lot, but it's the best version of Zod.
Mine's quick. I agree with Frank. 3 should be a little bit higher. 2 should be to the max. I'm not going to sit and filibuster and argue about it. I think 1 honestly should be a smidgen higher because again, you're coming from comic books are always tricky when they first come to the big screen because it's like what direction you're going to go. It wasn't like there was a lot of multiverses yet for Superman. So the first one can always be tricky. So, but I enjoyed them for what for what they were. I really enjoyed them. Alex?
Same. I don't remember much about these movies. I saw the third one a year or 2 ago, and I like Richard Pryor. So yeah, third a little bit more. 1 probably at the top or close. Keep 2 where it is. Absolutely.
Okay. We'll move along to Jurassic Park. I will start this one. I'm just going to keep them quick because I'm not the movie guy. For me, the first Jurassic Park, I'm going on the original 3 with Jeffrey Goldblum, and then he wasn't in the third one. So, but I'm going number 1 should be full, 2 should be maybe a smidgen higher, and 3 should be a smidgen higher for what they were. I thought 1 was excellent. Whether they stole it from someone else or whatever the hell the idea came from, I thought 1 was awesome. So, Alex?
Whether you're containing the rating for the first Jurassic Park within the trilogy or you're putting it in the context of great movies of the time, I would fill that meter to the top and then some because it was almost perfect. Not being a great filmmaker, I couldn't nitpick much at the time, and I haven't seen the movie from beginning to end in many years. But the score, the cinematography, the graphics for the time, the acting and the reactions, everything was top notch. The problem is with the second, when you follow up such a great movie with a sequel, if you're not going to put in as much money and time and energy as a sequel, and if you don't have someone great like Steven Spielberg directing, then yeah, it's going to fall short. So I can understand why 2 is where it is. I'd go a little bit higher. And like you said, for the third, maybe just a little bit higher, not a whole lot, because it's starting to wear on us at this point.
Frankie?
1, I think, was one of the most culturally significant films made in the last 50 years.
Wow.
I mean, Spielberg does not make a lot of duds. He's made a couple that haven't landed well that were still considered good movies. 1941, for example. A lot of that movie was kind of a bust when it came out. Now it's considered a classic.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the first Jurassic Park, I mean, not unlike the first Star Wars film, it changed filmmaking in a lot of
It was
ways.
a game changer. Yep.
The effects, the great writing, the great acting. I mean, like I said, it's hard to catch lightning in a bottle. When you do it, you get the first Jurassic Park. The second one, I'd rate it a little higher. I always thought they did these movies kind of out of place. I always thought that the plot line of the third one should have been the second one. And that when you get to the third one, it's kind of what would have been, I would assume, the big finish of the trilogy. That's when you take it off the island and bring it into the United States, bring it into a city, and see what really happened if you let one of these things go in a place like San Diego. But one of the things that hurt too, even though I thought it was a decent movie, it should rate a little bit higher. Not bringing back the whole cast after the first one did so well. I mean, either you back the Brinks truck up for these people so you can bring them back and try to capitalize on that chemistry again, or you do something really crazy, just bring in all new everybody. But I mean, I kind of get it. They were just like, we're gonna bring Jeff Goldblum back because he's always gonna be Jeff Goldblum. I mean, even back then he was kind of Jeff Goldblum, but
yeah,
but he wasn't enough to carry everything. You know what I mean?
Not at all. Yeah,
I
not
mean,
at all.
very enjoyable to watch and a fun movie. But like I said, I always thought they kind of told the movie kind of out of chapter. You know what I mean? I feel like the third one should have happened in the second movie, and what happened in the second movie should have been the big finale for the trilogy in the third movie. I think that would have worked out better.
Okay. Let's move on to X-Men, and I'm assuming this is the first one with like the first Hugh Jackman, the Fox trilogy. I guess there's more than just that, but that was like the original. So I put number 1 higher too for the significance that it had on comic movies myself. 2 was pretty high, and 3 was 3 wasn't the greatest. I kind of felt the story got muddled, but I think number one needs to be higher just because what it did and brought, like, again, with the graphics from Wolverine's claws going in and out, Rogue stuff with, taking the powers. Could you have found a better Xavier? Seriously. And the biggest thing that every comic book nerd bitches about, including my lover Chadney, Wolverine was too tall. But other than that, like, they nailed it. So everybody was awesome in that movie. And also Rebecca Romaine getting all the blue work done for Mystique. Like, God, like how this movie to me should be, for what it did for comics and everything, should be 100%. That's my view on this. Alex?
It's hard to adapt something from the comics to a movie and make it good, but Bryan Singer did it at that time. Separate the art from the artist. The movie was great. I put one almost at the top. The second and third I don't remember much of, but I'd probably keep two where it is. Bring the third up just a little bit, because at the time that I saw it, I didn't really find anything wrong with it. Maybe I should watch it again. Nothing mind-blowing, but nothing really wrong. The casting for the first X-Men, on point. It's a great overall movie, very entertaining and culturally significant in terms of what it was referencing at the time. Now, maybe I should go for the second one with that, with Mom, Dad, I'm a mutant. And we all know now what that's referencing, but it's very creative to slide it in there like that, giggity, because at the time that I saw it, I had no idea.
Of course.
Yeah. So dumb people watching movies, we'll catch up eventually. That's why we can watch this stuff over and over again and eventually catch on. So, yeah.
So, Frankie, thoughts?
Up until the MCU came out, a lot of people were back and forth about the first X-Men movie and the first Spider-Man movie, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, possibly being the two best comic book films of all time. And some people still consider the first X-Men or the first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, to be in the top 5 comic book films of all time, because they were that damn good. Look, I was one of the people that was kind of like, I don't know, Hugh Jackman, who's this guy again? The guy who did musical theater? You really want him to be the big bad Wolverine?
Yeah.
And but the movie comes out and I'm like, okay, casting director saw something I didn't see. Good on them. Good job, casting director. Second movie was really good. Third one, yeah, I would rate the second movie a little bit higher. I think some people actually say the second movie is the best of all the X-Men films. I tend to disagree. I still like the first one, and of course, Days of Future Past, which isn't included in this trilogy, but it's a fantastic movie. Okay. But the third one didn't quite meet the expectations. I think at that point, like I said, you get to this point in a big blockbuster trilogy, it's really hard to keep that story really blowing forward, just really knocking people out.
Yeah.
And that third movie, they struggled with it. Singer struggled with it a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know at what point this was in his kind of personal struggles, but the third one just didn't quite get there for me. But I mean, overall, it's been a even with all the continuity schmontinuity discussion about the X-Men movies, they've been an enjoyable franchise pretty much all the way through. Even the bad movies have been kind of like they've been kind of frozen pizza. It's they're frozen pizza, but they still taste pretty good. You know what I mean?
It's still pizza. It's still pizza. It's not great, but it's still pizza. Yeah. All right. Well, then let's move around to the next. Like Frank had already said, we're going to move on here to Spider-Man. Frank, I'll let you start with your thoughts first this time. What are your thoughts on the levels there?
Yes, the Nightcrawler scene, dude, that was fantastic. And again, awesome. I can't overlook what they did with the special effects for the first couple of movies.
Yep.
That whole Bam-Thing thing, that was something they talked about a lot when X-Men 2 came out. The whole how to handle the Nightcrawler stuff. Mm-hmm. They did that beautifully. But Spider-Man, third one, not great. Still pretty damn good. I would rate a lot higher than this. First one, like I said, some people still think that's one of the best comic book movie ever made. Second one, though, I think is gold. I would put the second one up at 100. I'd put the first one slightly behind it. Third one, I would move up a hair, not a whole lot. I mean, I know that Sony had a lot of weird input for the third one from what I've read that really took a lot away from what Raimi was trying to do with the third one. He had a lot of ideas that a lot of people liked, but the studio was like, no, we want to do this other stuff instead. And he was like, well, it doesn't really fit with what I want, but I'll do it because you're paying me a lot of money and you're fronting the money for this movie. So whatever, here we go. And I think it showed a lot. But I mean, like I said, the first 2 Spider-Mans and Tobey Maguire, fantastic. I loved them.
Okay. Alex.
I don't remember too much about any of these movies, unfortunately.
Okay.
But the first one, I would put a little bit higher, keep the second one where it is. And the third one should definitely stay where it is just because of that dance sequence that Dopey had in the streets. That was just too cringy. And that's coming from a guy who used to be cringe 24/7. Now it's 12/7.
12/7. Okay, so I'm gonna move number 1 up higher just because we'd waited so long for Spider, and I'm gonna try to live in the moments when I watch these movies. Chadney, we watched one of them together. Was the first one or the second one? I thought we watched one together. I might be mistaken. I thought the second one was, I'm not trying to one-up Frank, but platinum. I thought it was great. Doc Ock was awesome. The storytelling was great. The internal struggle that Peter Parker was having was fabulous. And the third one shouldn't even have any blue because it was the drizzling shits. Because I said to Frank, I'm sorry, you couldn't have found a worse Venom, in my opinion. An easy role to find a jacked up dude to play Eddie Brock. I still, to this day, say if you read comic books, Brock Lesnar would have been the perfect Eddie Brock. Because if you could have done kind of the CG stuff they did for Captain America to put Chris Evans's head on like a thin body, right? Because that's what happened in the comics. And then when Eddie got fired from the Daily Bugle, he got all jacked up. Eddie, like if you look at a picture of Eddie Brock from the comics and then Brock Lesnar, it's pretty freaking close. So, and then just how fast they killed off Venom is like, okay, well, like I know this isn't going to go on forever. I realize that it is, not a comic, but yeah. So I think, yeah, 1 should be higher, 2 should be through the top, and give 3s to 2 to make 2s higher. So
one of the reasons why the third one caught so much shit was because when somebody asked if that was Venom, they said, well, it's kind of a cross between Venom and Carnage. And it's like, no, those are 2 very separate characters that have very different kind of paths in the comic book. You can't just mix those 2 and have it. It's like, if you're going to call him Venom, that's fine. Because you've got Eddie Brock. That's kind of who you're alluding to. You can't just say, it's Eddie Brock, symbiote. It's a combination of Carnage and Venom. No, very different. Now Carnage is pure evil, whereas Venom is just, he's kind of like the Hulk. He's not a good guy or a bad guy. It's just always the bad guys to piss him off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So to one of my favorite trilogies, The Lord of the Rings. The only thing I'm going to change is, I'll put them all up higher. And I think number 2 should be Out of the Black up more. The Two Towers. I loved The Two Towers. I love these movies. These are the movies that'll come on. And it's like, well, I guess I'm just about to waste 3 hours of my life because I'm not going anywhere. So most of the time they're on TV, I'll just jump over to Crave and watch them. I love these movies. Frank?
2 and 3 are right about where they should be. Unpopular opinion of the day. The first one did not get good until the last 30 minutes. I went to the theater and watched that movie, and I'm like, look, I understand that every movie's got to have a little bit of build up, a little bit of setup. I get it. 2.5 hours of build up all to get to the good stuff that happened the last 30 minutes of the movie. I was like, come on, dude. I need you to move the story along. It's like you're already talking about 3 movies of these guys walking through Midgard or wherever the hell they're at. I'm like, Middle Earth. Middle Earth. You're talking about with them walking around for 3 movies, about 3 hours each. Talk about 9 hours of them walking. I get to the buildup. I could have done with a little bit more in the first film. So much exposition, so much explaining in the first 2 hours of that movie. I was like, because part of me is like, for one, I get it. I read these books when I was young. So it's like I kind of have the feel of where they're at already. Get me to where I want to go. But 2.5 hours of just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I got all I needed to know about the first movie in the first 20 minutes. And that's if I hadn't read the books.
So I think that's the problem, Frank, is that they were hoping to hook guys like me and you had seen the movies, but they were wanting to get those new people that hadn't read, and we're hopefully just going to get hooked by all the blinkies and sparklies. So Alex, thoughts?
So what I'm gathering from Frank's review is once Sean Bean dies, that's when he's interested.
All right, fair
Got
enough.
it. Okay.
Great actor, Sean Bean, by the way, never gets credit. Never gets the credit he deserves.
He is a great actor, and I haven't seen the TV series Sharp's War, but apparently he was pretty popular in that before he got into GoldenEye. Looking at the meters, the first one I keep where it is, second through the roof, and the third I'll move up just a little bit because it's all great filmmaking, all three films, especially the time put into making these films and weaving the intricate storylines. Yeah, that's where I would go. And I've only seen these movies once each because that's a lot of time to invest.
Well, that's insane.
Books are always better than the movie. Is your name Jolene or Cora?
Well, especially the way that Tolkien wrote everything. I mean, because my dad always liked reading more than movies because he said it's the theater of the mind. You get to build the stuff in your mind the way it's described by the writer. The way that Tolkien described the world in the books, it's like he was painting with words, almost literally. Like nobody described a world the way that he did in those books.
Fair enough. All right, Mad Max. Alex, you started this one.
First one, absolute classic. Loved it. Love the intro as well, especially. The second one, I don't remember too much about, but it was very good. So move up the first, give the rating for the second to the first, and what the second currently has, bring it down just a little bit, not too much. And the third, I don't remember a lot about, unfortunately. I think Tina Turner was in it. I remember that much.
Third is the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was a movie, so keep it where it is. Overall, it's a great down and dirty trilogy.
Okay. Frankie.
I kind of like where these are at. I've always liked the third one a little bit more than a lot of people did because I've always been a big Tina Turner fan, and I know that she really wanted to get into acting, and somebody was just like, hey, you want to do this? She was like, yeah. And believe it or not, despite the fact that she didn't have a whole lot of acting experience, she's actually quite good in the movie. But I'm kind of with where all these are at. I mean, the first one, again, kind of a smaller film, not a lot of expectations. They ended up people saw it, they were like, holy shit, this movie is kind of way ahead of its time. It's way better than it should have been. And then the second one, of course, they kind of rode that feeling. Mel Gibson becoming a bigger actor, stuff like that. That movie was pretty awesome. It was a true blockbuster. Third one was really good. But yeah, I'm kind of with where most of these landed. I would have rated the first one a little bit higher, but yeah, I can kind of get with these.
I would have bumped number one up a bit more. And other than that, yeah, I'm good with those where they're at. I probably would have filled number two all the way. I enjoyed it with the whole apocalyptic fighting over the tanker full of gas thing.
And Tina Turner's song from the third one is a classic 80s jam.
It is, most definitely. So, all right. My series now, Jaws. Number one should be all the way up to where Indiana Jones is. Number two, I feel needs to be higher, and especially higher than three. Number three fucking sucked. Like, seriously, when SeaWorld, it was fucking lame. Number two, yeah, I realized it just kind of rehashed some shit, so I'll put it about halfway up. But definitely three is not better than two. So yes, I'm biased because Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. So I will let now Frankie answer about sharks.
Yeah, Jaws is a classic. I mean, like I said, I mean, this is before Spielberg was Spielberg. He was just showing how good he was. Jaws was one of the best films ever made, one of the best horror suspense films ever made. Jaws 2 is actually almost as good. I mean, unpopular opinion, there's a lot of people who are saying that Jaws 1 and Jaws 2 are both fantastic, and then it kind of fell off with 3, which it absolutely did. There's this movie on Netflix right now called Under Paris. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or not. It's about a shark that has somehow made its way to the waterways of Paris, and chaos ensues with the shark. Some people were calling that the best shark movie since Jaws 2.
Absolutely not. Deeply
absolutely not. I tried to watch the movie because, like, okay, those are pretty high praise. I want to watch the movie. I made it about 2/3 of the way, and I was like, I'll come back and watch it later, and just never went back.
That's why
it wasn't a bad movie. It just, like, you put it up there with, like, it's the best shark movie since Jaws 2. And I'm like, wait a minute. Jaws 1 and Jaws 2, epic. I mean, up there, top of the list, top shelf peanut butter, baby. It's the good stuff. You compare it to that, it better be good, and it just wasn't. But the first two Jawses are fantastic. The third one, they tried to want the 3D angle did not help. That's what they did in the theaters. I don't know if you guys remember or not. It was Jaws. It wasn't just Jaws 3. It was Jaws 3D. And then when they released it on home video, because you couldn't exactly do 3D at home video at that point, they just like, oh, it's just Jaws 3 now. It's like, so the gimmick that you used to get me in the theater, you can't even take home with me. Nope, but yeah, 3 not very good. The first 2 were absolutely fantastic.
So, all right. Alex.
The first Jaws, classic, historical, to steal a word from Frank, banger. The second one, I'll give a little bit higher of a rating. The third one can stay where it is only because of Dennis Quaid, because I like Dennis Quaid. If he wasn't in it, it'd be in the toilet.
Okay. Back to the Future. Because again, I'm just going to go quick for myself. 1 and 2 should be full, and 3 should be a little higher. That's for me. I think they were awesome movies, and they tied in very well together. Frankie?
I think 2 should be even with 1, and 3 should be a little bit higher. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth as to whether I want this to be one of those movies that gets the remake treatment or not, because there's sometimes you can't paint the sequel to the Mona Lisa. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And lately I've been doing it. I've not because I'm trying to build anything or anything. I've just been kind of like reading the theories of time travel and all that, just like on the side because it interests me. And so movies like this that kind of play with the idea are always super fun. And then you factor in the great cast. Yeah, it's like, God, again, when you catch lightning in a bottle, you get some of the movies that you're looking at this list right here.
Yeah.
But the great thing it did have, though, is it had a great ending. It's so many times you get a trilogy that has a terrible ending. Yeah. This was an ending that fit very well. You left that third movie satisfied with where this entire trilogy went. And again, great acting. Everything about this movie was just really good.
Fair enough. Okay. Alex?
It's because of the Back to the Future movies, especially the first one, that I will watch absolutely anything that has to do with time travel. I love the concept and the idea so much. So the first Back to the Future is full on the meter for me. The second one as well. I love the idea of when you change something, you create an alternate timeline. I don't care what anyone in the Marvel universe has to say, oh, it's a bunch of bullshit. But it makes sense for an explanation that when you do something different, you create an alternate timeline. I don't understand why that would be wrong. The third, I would, in agreement with you to rate it a little bit higher. As Chad said, it does get better with every watch. It's not on the level of 1 and 2, but it is still very good. And yes, as Frank said, it does wrap up the trilogy quite nicely. And no remake for Back to the Future. No. None whatsoever.
No, I don't want to see it. So, next, Die Hard. Again, I'll do mine quick. Phil 1 and 3, and 2 can be up a smidgen more. Alex?
Phil 1 and 3, 2 can stay where it is. I love the first. It's probably my favorite movie ever made. The third one, just as good as the first, especially because John McTiernan is directing. And the second was good, but Rennie Harlin is not John McTiernan. Not to take anything away from Rennie Harlin, but there's something in terms of structure when making a movie that John McTiernan can do, that even though Rennie Harlin's got a lot of films under his belt, it didn't really mesh too well when you compare the second with the first and the third. So, yeah.
Okay. Frankie?
First 2 movies are just Hall of Famers, man. They're absolute bangers.
Perfect.
We just did the second one. It's almost as good as the first one in every way. They're both Christmas movies, by the way. I don't give a shit what Tech says. But third one, I thought the third one was pretty good. Oddly enough, and yes, Jeremy Irons was fantastic.
He was
is what
awesome.
makes the third movie. Jeremy
Yep.
Irons is one of those guys. Like you put him on camera, he's just gonna do great things. But you know, the one thing that surprises a lot of people is that the fourth movie, the Live Free or Die Hard, the more modern one, I actually think that's better than the third one. I'm actually looking forward to reviewing that one here in the next couple of weeks. For one, I'm a big Timothy Olyphant fan. Everything that guy's in is just good. Even in, like early in his career when he was kind of a bit player, he's got a look about him that I just really enjoy. He's almost as good a bad guy, almost as the Gruber brothers, Hans Gruber from the first one, and then Jeremy Irons from the third one, almost as good. Like I said, all of the movies were good. Fourth one's slightly higher than the third one. Third one's still enjoyable. Also, it's got Samuel L. Jackson in it. So, I mean,
yeah,
him dropping MF for a lot. That always works.
Always makes your movies great. All right, let's move along to Blade. I don't remember a lot of the Blade movies, so I'm gonna just kind of pass. The next two I'll be passing on because I don't remember really Planet of the Apes either. So, Alex, go ahead for Blade.
The first Blade I would rate higher. I would give the first the rating that the second has. And the second, I'll go a little bit lower because it's been years since I've seen it. And the third, I don't remember at all. So I'll leave the third where it is.
Okay. Frankie?
I'd put both the first two movies about where the second one is. The third one was just absolute trash. Like story wise, that movie just fell apart from the opening credits. It just didn't work very well. I mean, it felt like even Wesley Snipes was just there to get paid. It wasn't a good story. The action was great, but I mean, the action of these movies have never disappointed. But story wise, it didn't hit at all.
And I believe Triple H was in the third one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Planet of the Apes. Again, it was always on TBS, but it never interested me as a kid. So I'm going to say I have very little memory of these movies, so if any. So, Frank?
Assuming we're talking about not the Charlton Heston movies from the that started in the 60s, we're talking about the more recent ones that started with the...
If we're talking about the new ones, I liked all of them.
Yeah, if we're talking about the new ones, I don't understand why the second and third one aren't a little more liked, because they've all been pretty good. I mean, I actually just went and saw the most recent one when it hit theaters. Me and my oldest son went to see it, and we both liked it a lot. So I don't understand why the second and third one are rated so low when they're actually the newer ones are really good. Now, if you're going back to the ones with Chuck Heston that started in the 60s, I mean, maybe, but I mean, that was one of those things where they made like I think 8 or 9 of them, and had a TV, and at one point had a TV show before they decided to reboot it with that Tim Burton nonsense from back in the day that we don't talk about. That thank God never got a sequel. But yeah, I mean, if this is the original trilogy, maybe the original films, maybe I haven't seen any of the original films for a long time. But if this is the newer ones, I don't get it. I think they should all rate a lot higher than this because they've all been really good.
So I'm going to say that too. If it's the newer ones, I think the first one should be full, and the other one should at least be halfway up minimum on the nickel meter. Alex, thoughts?
If we're talking about the newer ones, I would take the rating from this infographic that Lord of the Rings has and apply it to Planet of the Apes, because the newer ones are great. But if we're talking about the original from the 60s, yes, the first one has a good rating. The second one, I don't think I would give it that low of a rating, because I think Roddy McDowall, who was a great actor, I think he appeared more prominently in either the second or the third. I think it was the third where his character started to gain more of a foothold. And if that's the case, I would give 3 a much higher rating, because Roddy McDowall was a great actor. He's been in a lot of great movies. Rest in peace.
Okay. The Godfather. Again, I'm not a lot of time. 1 should be full. 2 should be where it is, maybe a little higher, and 3 is got too much blue on it, I think. So, does anybody disagree with that?
Not really, no.
Perfect. Let's move to Rocky.
3's got its moments, but it wasn't good.
So, not that I'm trying to rush this. I figure that's what Godfather was going to be. I personally think all 3 of these 1 should be full, and 2 and 3 should be where 1 is. That's what I think. Frankie?
Just about, yeah. I mean, and 4 even was very, very good. 5
Yes.
not so good
5
at all.
was awful.
And the Rocky movies since then have been actually pretty good. But yeah, I mean, if we're just looking at these 3, I think that's just about right. I would put 3 a little bit higher because I like the fact that Rocky takes the big L in that one, and his character goes through kind of a different journey for the course of that film. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I can see what lands like this.
Okay. Shut up, Chad. Alex?
The first one, full, great movie. Second one, I would bring it up a little bit higher. In the third, I'll keep where it is.
Okay. The Terminator. I like where 2's at. I think 1 should be a bit higher, and I think 3 is kind of about where it should be. Maybe it's smidgen higher, but 2 definitely. I think 1 needs to be a bit higher. Alex?
For its time, and this was 1984, I think the first one should be a little bit higher because it's the idea, the concept of the story that makes it, for me, that much of a better movie than what we see here. But the second one, as Leonard Maltin likes to say, modern classic.
Yep.
Love that movie. I saw it in the theater when I was a kid, and then I watched it on home video years afterward. Can't get enough of it. I saw the Skynet edition, which is I think the uncut edition years later, was thoroughly impressed. The third, I would not rate as low, simply because of the chase scene between the fire truck and that other gigantic vehicle, which I can't remember the name of, but that was a thoroughly enjoyable chase scene, and the ending as well, because in a lot of movies, everything is okay. Well, unless you're watching horror movies, at the end, everything is okay and everyone's going to be okay. Not at the end of this one, which sets up for number 4. That's why I like the ending of number 3, because everything is not going to be okay.
I'll give you that. So, Frankie?
I think 1 should be higher. Terminator 2 is one of the best sequels ever made. I mean, right up there with Aliens, right up there with Top Gun Maverick. I mean, it was just so good. A very different movie. It's definitely more of a Hollywood action blockbuster than the first one was. I'm with Alex on the ending, though. God, the ending of 3, it was kind of perfectly done. Now, was it the best movie in the world? No, it didn't fit in very well with first 2. But the ending of the movie, I remember watching it for the first time and saying, this makes perfect sense. Because, again, time travel, the way it ties your head up, the way it ties my head up anyway, the ending of the third film made sense because there couldn't have been the events of the second film unless Skynet wins, or at least gets to the point where they do the dirty and nuke everybody. So the fact that there even was a sequel means that at some point Skynet has to execute their plan. Seeing them execute the plan, it made perfect sense. I was like, that's awesome. That was the most logical ending for the modern whatever, for pre-Skynet exploding everybody Terminator world. That's what's disappointing about the Terminator Salvation, is like, that's after that I was kind of like, I want a movie where I see the war now. I kind of want that, and Terminator Salvation should have given us that. They tried to give it to us, kind of, I don't know, they did at some points and did at others, but yeah, I'm kind of with this. I think Terminator 3 should be a little bit higher, like Alex said, because the ending was just so poetic.
Okay. Terminator. Rambo. Frankie. Well, actually, I'll go to Alex. Alex, what do you think about Rambo?
I haven't seen any of these movies in quite some time, but the first one sticks out the most. Great character move for Stallone. Great movie, shot here in British Columbia. So the setting really speaks to me. The second and the third, I would rate about even, because I don't remember too much about them, but I was at the very least mildly entertained. I think it's been a good 20 years since I saw the second and the third, and I'm pretty sure I watched them back to back.
And I'm going to give the exact same review because, yeah, it's been a hot minute. Frankie?
I would put the second one a lot higher. I thought it was a very worthy sequel. Not quite as good as the first one, but it was a worthy sequel. 3, I'm kind of with where it's at. I mean, it felt like one of those things that like Stallone was doing it because he felt obligated. He's like, oh, I'm this character now, just like I'm Rocky, so I may as well go out there and do their movie. But the reason you probably haven't watched the third one in a while, Alex, is because they don't air it a lot. I don't know if you remember this little thing that happened in September of 2001, but the people that he's helping in that movie were the people that were fighting against the Russians in Afghanistan. They ended up being a group of people that we don't have a very good relationship with. So they kind of stopped airing the third one on TV for a while.
Good call. Okay. Good call. Now, before we do this next Batman, or next one, Batman, are we going first trilogy or it's got to be the first? Because there's no way that the Dark Knight would be that low, right?
I'm assuming we're talking about the first one with Tim Burton and Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Because the Dark Knight's one of the best, like, comic book movies ever. My opinion. I could watch it. My wife will sit and watch that movie anytime, and she is not a comic book movie person, and she loves that movie. So I think that speaks volumes to how good the Dark Knight is. So, all right. So that being said, the first Batman. So I think we need, when you talk about the first trilogy, you got to look at it with the 1989 eyes. You can't be thinking about the Christopher Nolan ones because they're so different, right? And I think I like the Christopher Nolan ones better. That being said, I still think the first Batman should be almost full. Second one, for the campiness that it was, maybe a touch higher. And I think 3 needs to be higher just because of Jim Carrey's performance as the Riddler alone. I thought he was great as Edward Enigma. I thought he was a great Riddler. So, Frank, what do you think?
I think Batman 1 should be full. That's just a great movie. It was perfectly done. The dark sensibilities of Tim Burton worked out great for the character in the world. The second one should be just below it. It's almost as good, not quite as good. The only reason why the third one has any modicum of blue in it at all, like you said, is because Jim Carrey was pretty good. The third one and fourth one, it's like we didn't even review them. They're just not good.
Oh, they're awful.
The creatively, they so bad. They went from being dark stories about this dark guy to being commercials for Happy Meals. They were just so bad.
It was so...
They weren't good at all. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons why when we did the first 2 Batman movies, we were like, are we going to do the other ones? And we were like, nah. we're just not. Because it's just going to be one of those things where we all bitch about it for an hour and a half and then I hit end stream.
Right.
That's not always. Sometimes that's fun, but not back-to-back reviews. That's not going to happen.
I will say this, though, for Batman Forever, which was number 3, the soundtrack has some good tunes on it.
Oh, yes.
Hold me, thrill me, kiss me, hold me, kill me, thrill me, kiss me. Is that the right?
Hold me, kiss me, kill me, thrill me.
Thank you. And of course, Kiss from a Rose. Right. And then I think there were a couple more songs, and there was a very awesome. And that hits me in the feels because I was spending a lot of time with Donald Edward then at the trailer, and that movie came out, and it was, so. All right. Frankie? Did I say Frankie? I'm lost now. Who did I go to first?
No, I think we finished Batman. Pretty sure.
Okay, finished Batman. All right.
No, we didn't finish it because I didn't say anything.
Alex, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right. I love the first one, especially the soundtrack. The score.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman.
Oh, it's talking about Prince and all his stuff.
Yeah, I remember Danny Elfman's score more than I do Prince's music, but that's not to take anything away from Prince. The first Batman blew my mind. The second one, when I saw it on home video, I was a kid, so I was impressed, but I watched it years later, and I really paid attention to Danny DeVito's performance, which was excellent, and Christopher Walken's performance. I didn't think of it at the time, but Christopher Walken had mentioned the Gulf of Tonkin incident at some point in that movie, and it just blew me away that I didn't want to know anything more about that at the time. So props to him for that. And the ending, love the ending. The third one, I would rate a little bit higher just because of the time that I saw it, which was I was young and stupid, and I saw it in the theater. and it was just dumb fun. And I love the cast, and I love the wild cinematography, including the lighting. They just went all out with the lighting, and some of the set design, especially in the third act when it's Edward Nygma versus Batman. It's just a great setting. It's almost like something you would see in a video game. So little bit higher on that. So rating for the first at the top, second just below the top, and the third I'd probably go half.
Okay, I like that because I will say Batman Returns had a great game on the Super Nintendo as well. That was a lot of fun to play. So the last three we have here, the Alien trilogy. I will put. I just watched number one again. It'll be full as well with two. Like two is better. Okay, I'll put two a little up above the. I'll put up to Terminator because two was awesome, and three. It's there. So, Alex, what do you think about the Alien trilogy?
The first and the second, although they are different in their tone, their approach, and their pacing, they would both be completely full at the top for me, because Ridley Scott, 1979 for the first Alien. Love it. I love the cast. The trailer I will watch whenever I need inspiration or whenever I'm bored, because that is such a perfect trailer that gives away nothing. And it's great for inspiration. If I need an idea, I'll watch that trailer. James Cameron in 1986, after he did Terminator, solid choice for doing the Alien sequel. You got to take it in a different approach, which he did, and he helped to flesh out the story a little bit more, which is great. The third one, directed by David Fincher, I saw it in the theater. I would rate it higher because Fincher's atmosphere and his pacing, it's something that I really enjoy seeing in the theater or at home watching it there. So I would go at least half for the third, even if it's not as strong as the second or the first in terms of its approach. The third is still decent.
Frankie?
The first one is one of the best sci-fi horror films ever made. I mean, it's just fantastic. And again, the second one is, again, one of the best sequels ever made. Alex is right, very different tones. The second one is much more of an action space thing, whereas the first one is sci-fi horror. And sci-fi horror is fantastic. Third film, I mean, like right off the jump, I remember going to see it in the theaters, and I was like, wait a minute. So the people that I was rooting for in the last movie, all but one of them are dead before off screen? I'm like, come on, man. It's like Michael Bihn's character can't. I mean, I want to see him. It's one thing if he dies. I want to see him die a hero's death on screen.
Right.
That makes it more acceptable to me. The fact that it's just like some shit short circus and he died in his little cryopod. I'm like, come on, that's not an ending for this guy. And the little girl Newt being dead. Come on, really? All the trouble we went through in the second movie to save this little girl, and she dies because a battery runs out or malfunctions somewhere in a cryo tube. Come on,
it's ridiculous.
I like the I like the fact they made the third one a lot grittier, and it's got Charles S. Dutton in it, who's one of my favorite actors from the '90s. That guy he's got a screen presence that I just really enjoy. But I'm kind of with where these fall down. I mean, I wouldn't rate the third one that much higher, but the first and the second, they're pretty much where I'd put them.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, look who liked their show. Thank you, Alma. You must be busy tonight. We don't see you in the chat, so.
Gracias, Alma.
Yes. So that was our trilogy meter. God, we got a lot of life out of that shit, didn't we? Fucking awesome. Okay.
You get me and Alex talking about movies. That's what's going to happen.
It's awesome because I just have one thing we can do. I want Frank to be here for our dumb videos and our fuck around and find outs. And this is great because when Tex was here, I wanted to find one of my things that I like, I always bring up like top 15, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And nothing showed up. And it just so happened that I said something I need like movie stuff, right? And holy shit. So this one popped up. So these are movies that had a different ending than they were supposed to. So starts with Army of Darkness. So in 1993, Army of Darkness, Ash gets transported back to the Middle Ages where he has to fight the dead. He is able to return to the present with the help of a magic potion in the end. However, in the original version, the character takes a potion, falls asleep, and instead of waking up in the present, wakes up in a post-apocalyptic world. Wow. I wish would that had been a next Army of Darkness, or like the Army of Super Darkness. I Am Legend, which even my son picks up on. The man lives for 7 years without a problem. He meets a bitch and everything falls apart in a day. Fuck. In I Am Legend, Will Smith plays Robert, tries to find an antidote to a virus while defending himself against mutants. In the film's last scene, he is surrounded by mutants and blows them and himself up with a hand grenade. The original ending was very different, however. It becomes clear that the mutants can think and feel. Robert frees the alpha mutant woman, and she's reunited with her lover, the alpha male mutant, and once they're together, they leave, taking all the other Dark Seekers with them. What did you guys think of I Am Legend?
That was a good movie.
Frankie? Al?
I like post-apocalyptic movies, and I did know about the alternative ending. But to go back to what you said about the guy living alone for 7 years, and then he meets a bitch and everything goes wrong, well, this is what I say to that.
The Omen.
Ooh.
So, in the 1979 horror film The Omen, Damien is a son of the devil. However, his diplomat parents have no idea his real identity is. When they find out who he really is, they are quickly killed. The American president, who is a good friend of Damien's adopted parents, takes the boy in. In the last scene, Damien is smiling devilishly into the camera at his adoptive parents' funeral. The original ending was the happier one, in which he was defeated. I think it was much better the way they did it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's a lot funner to know the evil's still out there in the world at the end of a movie like this.
Yep. First Blood, John Rambo. He starts to fight with the chief of police at the small Washington town, which is actually Hope, BC. He ends up being arrested and is taken to a local prison. In the original version of the film, he is meant to die at the end of the film, as he has asked his friend Colonel Troutman. Thank you. Because he feels he will never be able to survive jail. After a tense discussion, Colonel, what he said, agrees to shoot him. Fortunately, the end was changed. Otherwise, there would have been only one Rambo film, which would have been a great shame.
You could have written him back. It's funny, we were just talking about the I Am Legend. There's actually something that's been going around for the last year or so that they're trying to figure out some creative device in which they could bring Will Smith's character back for a sequel. So
yeah,
you're one line of dialogue away from explaining anything.
Right. Princess Diaries, who cares?
Yeah.
Natural Born Killers. So they're arrested but manage to escape. The closing scene shows them driving off in a car with two children. The director originally had a different ending planned. Owen, who had helped them escape, was meant to murder them as he was a secret serial killer himself. I think that would have been a hat on a hat. I think it would have been too many gimmicks, as Jim Cornette would say. I think it would have been too much.
God, that movie's insane.
I love it. I fucking love it.
Yep.
Maybe that means I'm a lunatic, but God, I love it. When Harry Met Sally. Rob Meyer met his real wife while filming. He changed. Okay, so in the original, the acquaintance never end up together, but he got married and led to a happy ending. Fuck off. The Butterfly Effect. Okay, so of course we all know how effed up it is, but in the original, he actually realizes he's the one to blame for all the bad things. He travels back to the past, the moment just in time before he's born, and strangles himself with his own umbilical cord. I knew that one.
I heard about that one, yeah.
I knew that one, yep. Pretty in Pink, I don't care. 28 Days Later. Let's see. So Jim, played by Cillian Murphy, wakes up from a coma and having involved in an accident. While he's in the coma, it happens. Along with a few other survivors, he tries to escape the undead, but ends up being shot, but is nursed back to health by Hannah and Selena. And the three are finally able to help. The original ending was not a happy one. The two women were not able to save Jim, and the future looks very uncertain. Okay. Thought it would have made more sense if he died, but still enjoyed it. Fatal Attraction. So of course he isn't into her. At the end of the film, she attacks both Dan and his wife with a knife. He attempts to overpower her, but is not quite successful. In the end, Beth shoots Alex, but originally she was not meant to be shot, but to commit suicide. Huh.
Suicide's a tough sell in movies, though.
Yep. Thelma and Louise. The original. Okay, it was supposed to show blown up at the bottom of a cliff just so that there was no way to write them back. I farted.
It's a better ending though, just having them like fly through the air.
Yeah, it would have been better to see it like blow it up and shit.
But
Right?
then again, I always remember that scene in Family Guy where that cutaway where they pull up to the edge of the cliff and they're like, you know what? We're probably going to do okay. I'll just get a lawyer and we'll be out in like 5 years. And Peter Griffin comes up there and pushes him over the ledge. He goes,
yeah.
Goodbye, terrible women. I'm like, yep, that was the ending we needed.
So the original Rocky, instead of fighting, was meant to accept the money he offered to open up to help Adrian open a pet shop. I'm so glad they went the way they did.
Yeah. I'm glad that he toyed with the ending of that movie.
Okay, I knew Han Solo was supposed to die. That's always been, I mean, every Star Wars guy knows that. The Empire, that Han was supposed to die. 7. Okay, so when the police hunt him down and are finally able to arrest him, which they did not hunt him down, he gave himself up. He makes that very clear. That is false advertising. The very last scene, of course, he gets a scene where the head of his wife is in the box.
What's in the box?
Initially, a less dramatic ending was planned. The policeman was meant to receive his dog's head and not his wife's. However, Brad considered that it was not powerful enough, so the director changed it. Good call. Because that's one of those ends where you're just like, holy shit.
That's one of the great movie endings ever.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good movie already. That ending really puts it over the top.
Yeah. And I remember watching that with Cohen when he was old enough to watch it. And when he realizes like what's in the box, I wouldn't tell him. And it shows the flash of her, and Cohen's like, oh, it's her head. Like he figured it out, and he was like, oh, right. And we also watched The Usual Suspects that night. So we watched 7, and he was wow. And he's like, you got another one with an ending like this? Like, and I'm like, yeah. So he was kind of getting bored with it. He was, I always liked it. But then when Kaiser started walking properly, Cohen was like, and he's like, that was another good one. So, yeah. Okay, I've manipulated long enough. You do a video, then I'll do my fuck around and find out after.
Well, it's all just trash from here on out. So all the intellectualism, all the musing, that's all gone now.
If I threw you in a spot and you weren't ready, I'm ready to go. If you weren't ready to go.
I've got one short, well, maybe 1.5 short Karen clips. Let's rinse our brains with this.
Love it.
Now, this is something that I could see happening to Tex because when I first saw this, I thought, man, that looks like Tex. What, you're going to...
So, no, if Frank wants to stop to say something, Frank, to say, stop. You've seen the show. So if you want to say something, Frankie, by all means, jump in and say something. So, okay?
Okay.
Let's roll.
And play.
No, there's no fishing on this property, right?
Hey, how about you try mind your business on my mind?
Oh, really? Oh, bastard.
Hey, what is wrong with you?
I like people who follow the goddamn rules on this property. That's what's wrong.
Call the cops.
We pay these. I'm going to. I'm going down to the office.
She bounced right off of him.
Yes.
Like, bounced off of him.
I might have just like shouldered, like given her a juke move, let her fall into the lake and be like,
fell into the lake would have been better. Well, actually, now that I say that, no, because she had dogs with her, and I love puppies and hate people. So
dogs can swim. Dogs can swim.
It
It didn't look like it was that deep. He could have gotten the dogs out and let her climb her own way out. She didn't deserve it.
That is true. That is true. So
I don't exactly know the context on that one, but I think they're on a place that is governed by a homeowners association. So if you know anything about how terrible those organizations can be, then you get an idea of why she was saying, I like people who follow the rules. There was a longer, different clip from somewhere else where two people were arguing because one of them was fishing, and it was in a homeowners association area, and the cops had to be called, but ultimately nothing could be done to the guy who was fishing because of some technicality in wording with what he was doing and what the homeowners association allowed. So if you're ever going to live in a place where there's an HOA, maybe reconsider, because every time I've seen a video with an HOA person, they're terrible people.
They're awful. They're absolutely horrendous people. So, right, you said you had more for us of Karens?
Oh, I've got one more that might be kind of a fake out, and that's giving away too much, but I'm going to play it anyway.
I'm over on my porch, they're going to disappear.
Now, what do you think he's talking about? He's an old white guy, so think before you answer.
I'm going to say some kind of an animal, although I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
If I see them on my porch, they're going to disappear.
Old white guy.
I'm just going to say play the video. I'm not even going to.
We all know where this is going. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's kind of mean.
No, it's not mean. They don't belong here, Denise. They belong over in that damn pond over there.
I'm not
in our yards. And the reason they're in our yards is because people feed the damn thing.
So they should die. You're God to kill them.
Yep, Frank wins. It's ducks.
I was thinking like dogs or something. I was like, I don't know. Let's go with some kind of animal.
They're fucking ducks, and you live by water. Like, oh, holy fuck. Oh.
Is it your right to feed them?
I'm not feeding them. But I can't control them either. I'm not the duck whisperer. I can't
Well,
say.
the reason they're in here is because they've been fed. That's the reason. The only reason, Denise. I grew up on a goddamn farm. I used to raise those things.
They're ducks, Lou. Calm down. They're just
They're not.
ducks.
They're not.
I love the
they're not
90s
for
windbreaker.
neighborhoods, Denise.
Did I bring them in here? Can I
No,
make
but
them
you're
leave?
keeping them here
No, I'm
by
not.
feeding the damn thing.
I just told you I'm not feeding them.
Oh, okay.
What you do, old man, is you catch them, you treat them, dress them down, put them in the freezer, and you have meat to last you for a long time. This clearly did not happen in Springfield, Ohio, where they were just eating ducks and cats and dogs and all that stuff. So,
Apparently. Thank you to Wade. Love you, miss your face, buddy. Merry Christmas. Good luck in Montreal, your airsoft competition. And make the gun case out of Desperado. Follow the video I sent you. It was a whole guitar case full of guns. And I think he needs to do that when he takes his stuff to Montreal for his tournament. So
That's a great sequence, that gunfight in that bar.
Yes. Oh fuck. So ridiculous, but so delicious at the same time. All right. Yeah. Fuck around, find out. Okay, so I'm gonna put this video up. Frank was actually on the chat when I got it to my thing. I don't know if I could show this because I thought it was gonna go very differently than it went. And then I went, oh, okay. And okay, I'm just gonna put it on and not play it right away. And I think you're gonna get exactly why you thought Frank might go, oh, I can see why he said he might not be able to play this video. That is a plate on top of a bottle. So my mind, I'm not, spoiler alert, because I would not be showing this if this happened. Okay. I thought we were going to get a John Wick scene with the pencil, but a bottle instead. I totally thought that bottle was going into his face. I'm the one spoiling it because I would not be showing this video if that happened. So
I know how I want this video to end.
And I think I ruined it, right? But let's just see how you do not do push-ups, okay? Let's mute this because I think there's some music. All right, and go. All right, see? Now, right about there, he's probably thinking, man, I sure wish I hadn't have done that.
These are the guys we gave Afghanistan back to.
Like, you can't tell me when you first saw that, you didn't think that he was going face first on that bottle. Why would you even think that'd be a great idea? Like,
What are his hands holding on to? Is that a broken plate?
It looks like it is a broken, or two.
Oh, no, it's two plates.
Yeah, it's 2 plates. Because right about here, he's going, oh, shit. Yeah, it was 2 plates.
It's like there's only really one way for something like that to end. Why would you do that?
What, Frank? Pump up the volume, pump up the volume, pump up the volume, hit.
You know what's funny is this was the best possible outcome.
Yes.
Worst possible outcome would have been the bottle doesn't move and you're having a bottle surgically removed from your throat. But it's this was of all the outcomes, this was the second best possible. The best possible is that you complete the push-up and you get down and you were successful. This is the second best outcome, is that you eat a mouthful of cinder block. And then after that, it gets progressively worse.
So yeah, I guess this guy's definitely going to take this as a win.
I saw a real quick on the subject of that stupid push-up. I wish I had the video to send you. I stumbled across something on I think it was Twitter or something a couple days ago. Some guy doing a strange push-up where he's got one hand on a bottle and the other hand is holding it's blocks of something. I forget what exactly it was. And he's doing the push-up off the bottle off this hand. On this hand, he's holding tightly this blocks of whatever. And he's basically doing all the push-up off the bottle. And he does it successfully, much to my surprise. But it looked a lot like that, only the guy that I saw in the video was successful. And this guy, was not.
That literally just gave me the heebie-jeebies. I'm just thinking about that bottle breaking in his hand and just slicing it all to shit.
Well, it's I've seen enough sports injuries videos over the years, all the sports that I played, all the times that I've watched sports, to where it's you feel like you're desensitized to things. Because I was watching live when Joe Theismann had his famous leg break back in the 80s and all that. Mm-hmm. So it's you think you've seen it all until some guy's trying to do a push-up on a bottle and something breaks the wrong way, and you're just I've not seen it all. That was new. That was something I was not planning on seeing today. But it worked out for that guy, I guess. All he got was a face full of cinder block.
Yeah, not that dude.
When it comes to I've not seen it all, that means I've not seen every stupid person in the world do every stupid thing in the world yet.
But we have the internet now, so we're getting down the list of stupid things that people do for whatever.
Most definitely. So.
And speaking of which, watch your volumes. It never ends, especially when it comes to people hurting themselves. Nick sent this to me.
Oh!
Hit it! Oh my!
Okay, so
You were saying
you're in a wheelchair already, so obviously you're not the guy who thinks the greatest fucking things. Good lord. Oh.
Oh shit.
He almost landed that.
I love that throw every time I see it. Every time I see that one,
killer.
I love that one. That
and
kid just
again.
I feel like that was set up for the internet, but I
don't care, but it's awesome. I don't care how fake it is. Oh, fuck.
Oh,
Oh, it made my day. Fuck. Holy
and
shit.
this probably, I could have included this in that compilation had I put in any effort whatsoever, but here is something similar.
Oh, fuck.
She's got one of those party blower things. And she's waiting for the beat to drop. And it dropped.
I'm sure that's not the worst thing she's going to have shot in her face that night.
Oh.
Wait till she gets to that Diddy party.
Right? Ugh.
One from the gym. Actually, this is from a home gym. So 2 plates on the incline. And he goes flying. Particularly because you see the bench that he's on. That's a flat bench that he's got set up as an incline. It's not an actual incline bench. So that is why. When all that weight goes forward, so does he.
You know, I realize that, you can't always afford gym stuff. I get it can be expensive. But then don't do the exercises you can't do without the proper equipment. That's how you get really hurt. Like, I'm sure if you go look around on a marketplace, you can find cheap stuff and like minimize that. 'Cause, gosh, that could have went way, way worse than it did.
When you're picking up and putting down heavy things like that, you don't really want to fuck around. I mean, because like weightlifting is inherently dangerous.
Yep.
I mean, especially if free weights. There's like some of the machines and stuff like that. There are some safeties built in to where there is less likely that you're going to suffer a serious injury. But it's like all it is gravity, kid. There's nothing stopping gravity from choking you out with 400 pounds or whatever the hell you're benching. So you got to be a little bit smarter than that. But whatever.
Yep, you're not wrong at all.
And speaking of things that could have gone way, way worse, especially on the road.
Wow.
That's one hell of a near miss.
I think there should be way more driving fail compilations like that have classical music, because that's just beautiful.
So
Made better by the fact that they missed each other so much.
Right?
It's like that little piece that fell off because they hit the divider. It's like, that's one thing, but that could have been like absolutely disastrous. And the fact that they swung around each other was almost like a movie.
Now, I mean, I'm not saying this is the top-notch bench, but there's an adjustable bench for $60. It doesn't look too bad. It's got a nice wide base on it with wheels to move around the back there, right? Right there. So for $60, probably not bad. Get the proper equipment if you're not going to go to a gym. Oh, where is it? Remember these rickety fucking things? You'll remember. Oh, you should both remember. You remember? I remember. I had one of these, but mine was burgundy red. Remember these death traps?
Yes.
With the old cement weights with the plastic wrapped around them. Yeah.
I think those are still available if you look on Wish.
Excellent. I want $65 for that bench. So yeah, save yourself $5 and get the incline.
No doubt a lot of people are holding onto their gym equipment in preparation for the next pandemic. I am.
Just so they could sell their shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what a lot of people, like I'm looking on here right now. So like just a lot of stuff that you could tell people bought for that. And now they're just like, oh, now we're stuck with it. So anyways. All right. I ain't got no more shit. You got more shit?
Not today.
Frankie, thank you for being on here with us. Please tell us what the fudge you guys have going on in the future here.
I know that we're going to see Christmas night separately, not all together, but we will be going to watch Nosferatu, the new Robert Eggers film that is coming out, a remake of the 1923 classic that we reviewed, I don't know, probably about a year ago or so. But I'm looking forward to seeing that. The trailers have been fantastic. We'll be doing that probably Thursday, and then I'm not so sure about the week after that. Usually the first week of January, we just kind of take off, decompress, relax. I will probably still do that. and then we'll get back into doing the last couple of Die Hard movies. But and that's kind of what we got going on right now. The new year is going to bring some new things to the channel. We got a couple of video ideas that I'm wanting to work on. One of them is doing pre-recorded videos about a year in filmmaking, a year in entertainment, talking about what movies came out, what the box office looked like, people that were born, people that were died that year, television shows, just kind of the general impact that individual year had on entertainment. I've got a few scripts written out for the early parts of the 80s. And once I get those scripts organized the way I want, I will start getting some graphics together, get those out. I'm not in a big hurry to get those out because it's not really the channel's about, but I want to do something kind of like what Weird History does. If you look at, I don't know if you ever watched their channel or not, they have the kind of the year in stories, year in news, something like that, but kind of niche to the entertainment, since that's kind of what I do. And yeah, my movie recommendation for the day. I don't usually give the movie recommendations the way that Alex does, but I was flipping through.
Stop. Sorry, Bruce, you're here. Before you leave, do you still have the beta machine that you had back in Mackenzie? That was a topic brought up way at the beginning of the show. And I'm like, if Bruce sorry to cut you off, Frankie, but I gotta ask Bruce while he's here. Do you still have the old beta machine? And if so, some of the beta tapes. That is amazing. Excellent. Okay, thank you, Bruce. I was like, oh, as soon as I see his name, I have to ask him. So
I feel so bad that I'm old enough to remember those.
Oh.
And not even to remember that I actually watched several of them. My grandma, she didn't have a VCR, she had a Betamax, and she had a couple of Chuck Norris movies and like a couple of, like, I don't know, drama movies that she would watch on beta. That was all the movies she ever watched. It was like those 4 or 5 movies.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Sorry,
like I said, my
movie recommendation.
No, you're fine. But my recommendation is I was flipping through Tubi the other day, and it's free to watch with ads, but well worth it. Is the 1954 classic Them, about ants that are mutated through nuclear testing. It stars James Whitmore, Edmund Gwenn, Joan Weldon, and James Arness before they became super famous. It is a fantastic film. It was one of my dad's favorite movies. I grew up watching it. It's fantastic. I've been wanting to review it for a while. I don't think we're going to get to it soon enough. It's only going to be on Tubi for, I think, another like week or so. It's behind a paywall on Amazon. It has been for a long time, and I'm going to just buy it eventually. But it's one of the movies that we will be reviewing at some point. It's a fantastic classic film, great dialogue, fantastic acting, especially by Edmund Gwenn, who, as most of you may remember, was the Santa on Miracle from 34th Street, the original. Fantastic movie from start to finish. Go watch it. It's free it's free the next week or so on Tubi. Go check it out. Thanks, guys, for having me. I very much appreciate it.
Yes, and that being said, my plugs for this week for Nick's bipolar music list. The first one is going to be from Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin, Kashmir. And the next one is actually a System of a Down song acoustically covered by Sam Donald. It's just him and a guitar with some awesome effects on it. I really like it. I feel that me and Jared could do a better job, which we might give her a whirl and try. But yes, Kashmir by Led Zeppelin and Ariel's Acoustic by Sam Donald.
I saw that the Die Hard 2 review that you guys did, that kind of blew up in terms of views. That's got
It did.
over
I was surprised.
700. So
Really?
that puts it in the top 20 for most popular videos on The Harsh Truth. So congratulations to that.
Oh, sweet. I didn't even know. That's awesome.
Yeah, I looked at that the other day, and I put something in our Twitter room chat about it. I was like, holy shit, this thing really kind of popped off for some reason. I'm like,
Wow.
well, you know, not looking to give torch in the mouth. Everybody can watch, whatever.
And before the gigantic MCU universe unfolded upon us in 2008, in 2006, there was a little movie released called Special with Michael Rappaport. It's a lonely comic book fan, Les Franken, has a reaction to medication and becomes convinced he's a superhero. Hour 21, including credits, low budget, independent, great little movie. Michael Rappaport is awesome. I highly recommend this movie. It's got kind of a sad soundtrack to it at times, but it's still a really good movie. There were a lot of independent movies released in 2006 that one day I want to just blast out there for people to go and see, because that was quite the year. That and 2007 for independent horror. And so, yeah, Special from 2006. I don't think it's streaming anywhere that you can find in the conventional sense, but it is out there. So go find it. Do it now.
Yeah, do it now. Do it now.
Do
Go
it now.
now. So, all right. As we always say, be nice to each other. Take care of each other. Have a Merry Christmas. Be patient. And if you were one of those dildos that decided to wait to the last minute to finish your Christmas shopping, do not take it out on the retailers because you're the asshole. You have plenty of time to get your shit together. So don't be screaming at them because you didn't get what you needed or you're stuck in line for a while or anything else. This is your fault. You're an idiot. Get your shit together. Other than that, have a Merry Christmas. Take care of each other. Love each other. Frank, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, guys. Always great to talk movies with you guys. I was telling Nick before you popped on, Alex, you guys have an open invite to the show. I'll start planning out more movies ahead of time. It's one of the things I want to do over the course of next week. And I'll make sure I forward that to you guys. If there's one you guys want to jump in on, send me a message saying I'm in on this one. I'll be like, great, let's get it going.
Okay.
Yep. Die Hard 3, one of my top 5 favorite movies. So if I can get in there with you, I will, but we will have to see what time brings. But I'll keep my fingers crossed on that one. Think before you say something. Think before you do something. And as Nick just said to our audience, and this is out of context, you're the asshole. You, our audience, our loving audience who watches us week after week, you're the asshole. Thank you for watching. And even though Frank hasn't said this in a long time because Derailed has not been going on for a long time, subscribe to his shit, bitches.
Not Casey shit, though. My shit, not Casey.
And not Casey's. Boo, Casey, you suck. Oh, we can. We love you, Casey. Merry Christmas. I know you're not here no more, but
thank you so much to everyone who is here for the moment or the duration, including Dad, Wade, Alma, Jolene C, Jolene J, Chad, Ryan, and Casey, people who we haven't seen in a while and we hope are doing well. Overseer, Beverly, Brody, Shlomo, Really, Lady Cora, Junior, Van, coos to him, Freaking Nasty Bum Sex, Wild Bill, Gordon, Penny, Jen, Tamara, Amanda, my friends Sarah and Teresa, our friends Matt, James, Jared, Sheena, and Dewey, both Trevors, both Cindy's, the only Jolene who we haven't seen in a while, Nathan, Nick's mom, my Auntie Kathy, and shout outs to Gareth, Susan, Ravi, and Ashley. The best and also not best stocking stuffer yet, a plushy version of Gloria Pouchfontain's quiche-smelling uterus. We'll be back next Monday, December 30th, 6 p.m. Pacific. Get them plushies and stuff them down your gullet.
fuck. Let's go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Frank, so much for being here. I don't think you've ever been on the show before, so thank you. We really appreciate it. So that's yourself and Tex. Now, if somehow we can shoehorn in Jeremy and Lady Cora, then that'll be all 4 from the Harsh Truth, if not all at the same time. We've got, a simulcast of sorts. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Well, Aaron's coming around a little more often, too. So if you ever want to have some great conversations about someone who thinks that all of the world was once covered with water, that 9/11 was an inside job, and that Kennedy was killed by aliens, Aaron's your guy.
Wow. Okay.
He's got some zingers. He's got some good ones.
And on that note, good night, everyone, and a very, very Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Funny how? Funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?